Well, guys, thank you all for coming and meeting me. Um, just tell you a little bit what my idea was here. First of all, you guys don't know each other. So, Jamal Robinson, this is Trouble Carter. I've known Jamal for about 5 years now. He attends our church. Him and his family are super important in my life. Trouble actually is, I've known him for about 6 years. He actually works at our company as a supervisor. And, I trust both of you guys immensely. We've we both in our life together, we've been able to talk and have conversation about all kind of different issues. So a few weeks ago, there was a massive upstirring in just our community of the U.S. With race relations. You know, there's been many incidents that have occurred. The one with Aubrey, where he was running in the street and jogging, that really jarred me. That hit me differently than other things that I have seen, and it rocked me pretty hard. And then I know that happened in February. The video came out just a few weeks ago, and then right after that, George Floyd was murdered on the streets of Minneapolis. And I watched that video one time. I started to watch it a second time, and I just couldn't do it. Trouble probably knows me a little better on my my volatile side, and I have always been very strong at protecting, and that's part of my heart is as a protector and stuff. And it rocked my world, and I asked the Lord, like, okay, there's something has to be changed or done. Well, I don't understand. That was kind of where I was coming from, and I really felt as a believer. So we know that the Word tells us that we have the mind of Christ, and we know that it says that in Him all of heaven dwelt, and so we have the full wisdom of God is at our disposal, for lack of a better word. And so a friend of mine coined a little phrase there that says that we are solutionaries, that we have the solutions for the world. For every problem, every situation that we come into, we have the solution. And so my goal here with asking you guys to join me in this first of what I hope is many conversations is to have a very real, a very honest, maybe a difficult conversation, so that maybe we could light a fire that would burn down division and bring solution. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle some of this stuff. I truly don't. But I know that that we have solutions. We just have to step into them. And so I am very thankful and grateful to have you in my life, both of you guys. But I'm thankful that you would step out with me in this. I don't think that we're going to agree on everything we talk about, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that I think there's 330 something million people in the U.S. alone. They're not all going to agree with what we say here tonight, or they're not going to agree with you tonight. You know this. There's so much difference, and so our hope and our goal was simply to come together and see if we could start the track for a solution. And so that's my heart here tonight. I wanted to start that way and just have an organic conversation. I'm not trying to be funny, but you're black. And there's issue here in our nation between black, white. There's many other issues, but this is the one that's in the forefront right now. So if you could take just a few minutes here and share your heart in a summary of what you feel, solution, wisdom, biggest problem, whatever, I don't know. But I think Trouble said he was going to launch out since he's a little bit older. But so Trouble, take it away, my friend.
I mean, at this time or in this climate right now, I kind of feel a little bit of three things. I'm confused. I have fear, and then I guess I have anger, and not necessarily in that order. They just have. I'm confused because I'm trying to figure out how is it that in 2020 we could still have this divide. If this was the 70s, I would understand that. Right after Jim Crow, I can understand having the divide in the country. But I'm confused on how we come this far, but yet we still have the racism in this country. It blows me away. And in regards to the fear, it's not necessarily fear that I have for myself. It's like like you mentioned earlier, for my kids. My son, he's 19 years old. He's a young black male, and my daughter, she's a teenager. So my fear is more for them. I'm concerned when he texts me and say, "Dad, I'm gonna be at my friend's house," or I'm in the spring, I'm down the street, I'll be home later. I actually flinch. When I see the text, I actually flinch. I get a nervousness because I'm wondering what happened. He get put up by the cops. Son, I'm texting. What's in your car? Are you driving anything? Is the fear is for him because I don't want to see him on the pavement with a knee in his neck because I know what that'll do to me. I've come to a place in my life because I've been around a longer time. I'm used to extinguishing an issue, so I don't have the fear for myself as much. But I know with him and my daughters, they're younger than me, so they haven't been through as much as I've been through.
Yeah.
And how would they react if they was confronted with a dirty cop, a bad officer? I've been there before, so I know how to react to that. And I think the anger aspect of it, Chris, where it comes from me is we've heard of blacks getting shot at, done wrong, killed by bad officers and the whole nine. But to see George Floyd on the ground with a knee in his neck and in the time that we've never seen that.
Yeah.
And as each second passed, my anger level just went higher and higher. And I think that's kind of what it was. If we had heard about it and it was on video, so it was caught on video, and it's basically the anger comes from just being fed up. Cause like you said earlier, I mean, when is it going to change? We keep talking about change. We have meetings, we have protests, but when is it going to change? I mean, it feels like in '91 the Rodney King thing. I mean, that was '91.
Right.
That was '91.
Yeah.
Rodney King. It's 2020, and we're still having similar issues. It's like, what is going on? I'm confused. Fear and anger is kind of what sums up what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
As a black man right now.
And see, with that, going on the Rodney King thing, that was where big police reform was supposed to come in because you saw, where African Americans were talking about, hey, this is what's happening, like the cops are doing this, this, and this, but nothing's being said. And it wasn't until that video surfaced and was shown on national TV and that's when they said, okay, wow, that's really happening. And that's when change was supposed to happen and everything else. And I speak for myself, where I've had brothers and sisters come in contact with law enforcement officers that saw us as a threat rather than a citizen and took their anger out on them, whether it be, excessive force, even going to the courthouse, going to the courthouse, going to the jail itself. I mean, I've had my brother told me a couple of times where he's been beaten he's been beaten a few times, quite a few times. And, those things you hear, for me, you heard them so many times, they became normal. And honestly, George Floyd's murder is our normality. It was a prime example of someone, or you seeing someone showing their superiority, yes, over someone. And even though, yes, it shocked the world, that wasn't the first time publicly where you saw someone in the hands of the law, whether they be white or black or what have you, they would overextend their authority and use excessive force. Where there was, I remember a video where a black guy was trying to get out of grip of an officer, and instead of him pulling his taser, he pulled out his gun and shot him as he was running away from him. So things like that, it's like, okay, well, there's supposed to be police reform. You see all these things on their tool belt, but they're reaching for the deadliest thing in an undeadly situation. So when you say you have fear, anger, and
confusion, yeah,
that is the mindset of pretty much every Black American. I take that back. That is the mindset of every Black African American or Black person in the world, because this is just what we see here.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on in Britain, Denmark, Ireland, where we don't have so much of a base or a voice to where we can speak out on things. I mean, I know from watching documentaries, there's a country that celebrated blackface. It was an icon, but he was also looked at as a clown. So it's like racism is it's a worldwide thing, but it's been buried for so long and covered up with so many things, we don't know what's what. And that's the confusion for me. You know, I grew up in a public system to where I saw the beauty of America. I saw the Hollywood version of America. I didn't see the bad. We were always sold on the good. We were always told this is what happened. This person invented this, and this. But me as an African American, we got 1 month out of the year, and that month it was more of, okay, well, man, you got $2.99 cheeseburgers, good for you. And it wasn't. Black history is not taught in school. The only Black history that I can remember being taught in school was reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and that's pulled out of schools too. So it's like we don't know the history behind unless you actually do the research. So it's difficult to even know what side of the fence you're on. You know what's bad, you know what's going on, but it's like you don't really know what's going on because it's being sold differently. It's being told differently.
Yeah. Man, that alone right there, that few minutes is pretty powerful. I will say this, that racism is worldwide, and we know that. There is, so I understand police reform, and I was there in the 90s. We were barely married, and we saw Rodney King. We saw it on the news that night. We saw that when that came out, and that was it was unbelievable. And yes, things, there was a lot of, for lack of a better word, there was a lot of hoopla about. There was a lot of uproar. That's a better word, uproar. There was like, man, on all sides of all walks of life were infuriated with that, and rightfully so. But the thing that I want to be careful of in myself, and also, look, guys, y'all know me very well. There's parts of this conversation that we've never had with either one of you, and so if I say something that is offensive, or if someone that sees this, I'm ignorant. I'm not trying to be offensive at all. At all. So let me get that out of the way. But the thing that is my biggest concern when it comes to reform and things like that is. Laws don't change people. Laws, we all have kids here, and you can tell your kids all the time, you better pick that up, right? And they're not always going to go, oh, wow, my dad's telling me to pick this up, great. They don't do that. The law changes behavior. It doesn't change the heart. And
I like that.
So the talk right now about defunding the police, that's not going to change anybody's heart. Right. You said it a while ago, and I love the way you worded this, is that you come in contact with, say, an officer that is whatever, and they saw you, or your brother or you, as a threat rather than a citizen. That's the word I think you used,
Yes.
and I understand that. But there's no taking money away that's going to change that. There's no, you know what I'm saying? And so I think there's a narrative being spoken of today that sounds great and it gets a lot of attention, but what's really going to change that? Can I share real quick what happened with me the other day on my, and because this has really rocked my world. I was watching a video on Facebook, and it was just a few minutes excerpt from a panel that was going on the BET network, and they had I don't know this rapper's name. It was a rapper guy, another lady. Ti was on there, another rapper.
Killer Mike, T.I.
Candace Owens.
Candace Owens.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Killer Mike is that other guy. Okay, so Candace Owens is a fireball, right? She stirs everybody up, and so she's going off and talking about trying to prove factually that the statement that "Make America Great Again" is not racist in itself. She's saying that statement is not racist, and he says, Candace, so hold on, let me ask you this one question. And let me pause right there, because I am I a Trump fan? No. I like some of the stuff. I like some of his I like the not playing around with politician. That's what I like. But I'm not a Trump guy. But do I think "Make America Great Again" is a great slogan? I have thought that. Because in my view, and what I've heard them talk about, is getting back to kind of that Reaganomics kind of thing where, financially stable, everybody can grow and become better and popular, or not popular, but better off in their life. So unpause, go back to Candace Owens there, and T.I. says, when was America ever great for black folks? When he said those words, really what I thought was, dang, man, I never saw that. And I told her, I told Raquel, sorry, I'm pointing off screen right now. I told Raquel, I said, man, I never thought of that. And I understand, I mean, let's face it, let's be real. Slavery didn't start in America. They didn't come over and say, hey guys, let's start slavery. That was a world concept at the time that they brought over. But so that's how that started. And then we moved through history and through time, and still there was this pressing down against black people and other people as well. But we're talking about this issue here. So then it comes to the point of, think about it, man. It's not even 100 years ago that women couldn't even vote.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's pretty stupid to me, but that was the time going on. And then we come through all the other stuff in civil rights. Rosa Parks decides one day to press her shoulder against that boulder and say no, and she shoves that boulder just a little bit, and this amazing move starts. And still we go through the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and just everything else that happened, the horrible things that happened in that time as well. And we have some changes. We have some reform that happens and takes place. And then, we come now to, up through the 80s. Somebody told me the other day when I was talking about this, they said, well, the 80s were good for all Americans. And I said, well, then you get into the whole conspiracy thing about crack cocaine being brought in and all that. And there's all this thing. And my point is, sorry if I'm going too long, but my point is that this statement that T.I. said, when was America ever great for black folks? That hit me between the eyes, man. And my heart shifted. Yeah. And it wasn't a law that did that. It was an understanding. It was a revelation that came and said, hey, man, let's clean your glasses a little bit here and look at this from this other perspective. My perception shifted.
Let me ask you a question about that. When he said that, because a lot of black people, they feel that Trump is racist. Let's be honest, that's how they feel. And it stems from that slogan. Make America Great Again. So when you heard T.I.'s explanation, when he said, when was it great again, did you at that point realize to yourself, oh, now I see why blacks take offense to that quote, make America great again? Because it's been better for black people. It'd be better if it said, make America better again. But make America, because we've been, no, for real, are we doing better as a nation, as a culture since the 60s and 70s? Yes, I would, but great again? T.I.'s right. I mean, it hasn't been great. And it hasn't been great. I've been here 43 years today. It hasn't been great for me. It hasn't, It's been better, but it hasn't been great.
So your question to me is?
Yeah, my question is, so at that point, did you understand why people take offense to that make America great again?
Yes. From that standpoint, yes, I do. Do I think that that's what he means is I want to get all the blacks back to slavery, or I want to get back to Jim Crow, or I don't think that he means that at all. I don't think that's his intent. I'm not a Trump guy, right? I'm not. No. But I think there is a faction of America that probably would want that. There's this whole, the whole KKK and the Aryan Brotherhood kind of thing. And I don't know enough about that to really talk about it, except I think there is a section of people or a faction of people that would want to go back to something like that, right? But I don't think that the majority of our leaders per se, or cops or people that wear that MAGA hat, I don't think they're looking to let's get blacks back in their place. I think that's one perception or perspective, but that's another. I totally understand why any black American right now would say they don't agree with that statement. To say it's a racist statement, I don't really fully understand that. But I understand, man.
I understand what you're saying. I get that.
Man, I mean, it hit me between the eyes, and it rocked me. Like I never thought of it like that. And I know that if I can change my perception, then my view can change, and it adjusts things in my life. Your perception tugs on your heart. I believe that anyway. And so that's why I really wanted to have this conversation, and many more. We're gonna do more of these, where we can have some different views and different opinions, and like, how do we solve this? So that to answer your question, I'm sorry, I rabbit trailed a little bit. Yeah, it did. I see it. I get it. But what do we do with that?
Honestly, other than voting for a change, we have to ride that wave until we're able to vote for that change. And it doesn't just start. It starts with the president. We have to start changing our community, our judges, our mayors. If they're not in fit with the change of the world that needs to happen, then they don't need to be in there. And that's just as simple as that. And with making America great again, like you said, it was good. It was good at one point.
Yeah, make it better. Yeah,
better. Yeah, better.
Mappa hat. I'm giving me a Mappa hat. Make America better again. Yeah, Mappa hat. That sounds a lot better to me.
Oh man, that's good.
See, and that's the thing. Things got great, or things were good, looked good. Yeah. After after civil rights happened in '68 and stuff like that. And like you said, the institution changed the name of it, but it didn't change the practices inside of it. So let's say it's like at the FHA. They were in the '60s writing redlining, doing redlining to put blacks in one community, whites in one community, Asians in another, to make sure that they stay in their place. Once '68 went and gone, and they passed the discrimination laws for FHA to stop redlining, those practices didn't stop. Because you have banks that were in control of that. It went down to the bank manager saying, okay, well, let's approve them for this long. make sure you show the clients the black neighborhoods instead of the white neighborhoods. There was a story that I read that there was one politician that he remembers his father going out and getting a house back in the 60s or the late 60s, early 70s, and they would only show them the black neighborhoods. And he did a little like a sting operation where he had his white lawyer friend come in and, you know, do the whole housing process. And then once they came and signed the papers, he stepped in and said, "I'm buying this house," and he had the lawyer with him. And he got so upset, he punched the lawyer in the face because he was so. And it wasn't the fact that he was moving into the neighborhood; it was the fact that he was going to kill his reputation. And you know, with America making America great again, yes, it does show, you know, his supporters like hope and opportunity that, you know, one day America is going to be in the Reagan era. But at the same time, that slogan was used to, you know, cripple Black America. It was used to, you know.
You mean like it's a reference to a time?
Yes. I can't remember when. But that reference was used before, even before Reagan. I think I can't remember when it was used, but it's like, you know, you can change the way you talk about it, but it's still the same thing, and that's how I see, you know, everything around me when it comes to, you know, buying a house, getting a car. I can't walk into a bank. And I've always joked around with people saying, okay, well, I can't get that car because I have tier 2 credit. I didn't realize how much of a fact that was until, you know, I went out and tried to buy my first car. And I had white friends that had credit cards and everything that they had worse credit than me. And I still walked out with an 18% interest rate as composed to their 6. No cosigners, same person. So, you know, it's if we want to change the narrative of the story, we have to change the authors. Mm-hmm. And it starts from the top.
I like that. That's a good analogy. You got a take on that about how we bring that change?
He just pretty much describes systemic racism.
So I was going to ask that question.
I mean, that's basically what he just did, and he's right.
So, I fully understand everything you've explained, and I do see that. My question in my mind goes to, again, so if you change the leaders, if we change, you know, really for me, there are so few politicians that I put trust in. There's so few. I mean, we have cities today in America that are fully run by people that want that change that you're talking. There are cities that are fully engulfed in how's the right way to word this. They're already thinking what you just described, and they've been in charge. They've been running, and that change isn't there. And so my concern is, if and I believe there's a balance needed for everything. If we need to change some leaders? Absolutely. But are we going to get to the point of we're just changing the law and not the heart? The leaders in charge are ones that have your view, what you just described, and what you said. That's their, like, they're bringing in policies against all the systemic race, and it's still, for lack of a better word, it's a horrible place to live. Mm-hmm. You know, so I believe that there's another factor in there somewhere that we don't see, that contributes to that, and that doesn't allow that change to come. And I think I don't think all politicians are bad. I do think I was talking to Trouble about this the other day. One of my biggest peeves right now, or things that I would love to just kind of crush and start over, is the media. Because look,
Yeah.
Trouble, do you remember the question you asked me the other day? I don't remember what it was now. You asked me a question, and I think it was like, why, man,
But
oh man, I don't remember.
it's
But
about the media.
yeah, it's something about why is this all happening? I said it's because of media.
Yeah.
Now I believe I'm looking for a revival, full-on reformation to happen with the media. I mean, that whole mountain of media, it touches every aspect of all of our lives. And I told Trouble, honestly, if you look at the stories that are on the news, the things that they push out, I mean, I don't know actual numbers, but I would be willing to say that 95% of it is not just negative, but they'll show the riots and somebody jumping on somebody and beating them down, and they'll show a car running through. They'll show that so many times more than something good happening. Up where George Floyd was, the very spot where he was murdered, there is a revival that has been going on. Man, forget if you're not a Christian. Just put that aside. Even if somebody hearing this conversation is, oh, they're God. No. Just put that aside for a minute. At the very spot where he died, I think it's going on 13, 14, 15 days now. They're having what we as Christians call a revival. It's being led by a couple of black churches, but there's like over 50 churches involved. They have worship going on throughout the day. There's prayer going on. They're baptizing people. They got water troughs there, and it's happening every single day. Every day they've been doing this, and every day people are coming together. It's not about race or anything. They're just coming together to find healing and solutions. And they're praying with each other. People are coming to Christ. People are getting healing in their life. And you don't see any of that on Fox News. You don't see any of that on MSNBC or CNN. But you know what else is? There's one guy that's put a lot of those videos out on Facebook. He's just putting them on Facebook. Oh man, look at this. And they started to ban them because they say it's hateful speech. They started to pull his videos down. So my point being is, man, if somebody's not holding the phone yelling World Star, or a cop, somebody standing up to a cop, right? Then they don't want to. That's my. I know I'm.
It doesn't move the meter. That's
right.
What
Right.
what you asking for, the revival, right? The same spot that George Floyd was murdered. Why that's not being broadcasted or shown? It's not going to move the meter. So they don't want to show that. They want to incite activity and anger.
It's like showing watching the beginning of a movie, or not the beginning of a movie. It's like watching like a new movie coming out. They're not going to show you the parts that don't really mean anything. They're going to show you the climactic scenes to pull you in.
Yeah.
And
So my problem with that is that we're seeing so much of that, and I believe that fuels
the division.
And so I wish we could take a day and boycott all those news channels and show them for a day. Like, man, show us something good so that we can build on and stop putting all this division that tears everything down.
That's all of them, too.
It is
It
is absolutely. And my concern is that look, I know that here tonight having this conversation, I know that there's some amazing wisdom that's going to come out of this. Somebody's going to be touched by this. And what if all those new channels just got a hold of that and said, you know what, here's 45 seconds of some men sitting down trying to work this out. Man, here's a great thing they said. Here it is. Boom. You know,
that thing you like Rosa Parks you were saying about moving that mountain.
Yes. Yeah. And what I worry about, or what thoughts roll through my head, is that we're gonna have so many people that they don't take the time to really, like you talked about, doing research and looking. Man, some of us, we don't have time to look that stuff up. Right. We don't have time to dig in. And my concern is that we're just all gonna run. Uh, we're gonna run like a bunch of cows, man. When I open the gate to let the cows out, man, they run to the new pasture. They just, oh, let's just go, and follow this herd of nonsense and violence that just wants to stir up rather than hold back and find the good. And I think that there's a danger to what we're trying to do here, to the people that are up there in Minnesota right now holding that revival, to the people that are really trying to work on race relations, or to the cops that are good.
Yeah.
Like you don't see them when they show pictures of I see it on Instagram. There's a few people that I follow, and they're kind of doing it from a jabbing kind of point, where they're it's a white officer and a black guy, and they helped each other or something, and they're talking about that. Oh yeah, look at us, this officer, man, he's awesome, and all this. I mean, some of these people are reposting that. They're reposting it as a jab,
Right.
And I understand that there's frustration, but I just feel like that's one of the big dangers we face, is that we're having to look this monster of media, that its perception right now is very negative and very divisive, and
that's part of the issue. We watch the media and we see it, and it puts us in a certain place. It puts us in a certain mindset.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So when we all pulled over, I mean, you see it all the time. We already on edge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And right on edge. And so he has his hand on his gun. We're already on edge because we've seen the media and what we heard about how cops treat us. So let it be a bad day for us, Sandra Bland. Now we're talking smack to the cop, and then it's just a back. So I think a lot of it is, like you said, I agree with you. The media puts us in that headspace to want to lash out at authority figures, and that doesn't solve the situation either. It really doesn't. I mentioned to you earlier about the Rashard Brooks thing. I mean, I think that escalated a whole lot further than it should have, from him being handcuffed. Yeah. It went too far. Yeah. I think a lot of that is embedded in us. And so we're already on watch. We're already on
Everyone's on guard.
We're on guard right now. I'm ready to go. I think, and then that's coming from, you're right, a lot of it is the media. Because that's what we see.
So I understand that, and I want, if we can kind of segue into what you just talked about, if y'all are okay with that. What you just mentioned about, and you said being on guard. Yeah. When you say that, you're talking about from a black man's perspective of,
yes.
Right. So for me, Trouble knows a lot of my story, probably more than stuff I've shared with you about, just because we see each other every day. He's got to put up with me every day. So, but I grew up that way. I grew up, so I have I've had a lot of police officers, deputy sheriffs in my family. My dad was an officer for 30 years. I have uncles and then uncles by marriage and second, third cousins. I mean, have a lot of officers in my family, and I grew up. My dad was very, I'm a small guy, and so my dad was very, I had to be protective of myself and things like that. And he would try to teach us teach me those kind of things, situational awareness. Mm-hmm. And I was instructed that when you get pulled over, first of all, if you get pulled over, boy, that was my name. My name was Boy. If you get pulled over, the cop better be wrong and all this stuff, right? But it was very, keep your hands on the wheel. You be as respectful as possible. You ask before you reach in the glove box to get this and that, and I did have a little bit of of that tension rise up when I did get pulled over, or things would happen like that. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I've heard a lot of people say that that's only a black issue. But my perspective, it's not. I mean, that's just my own life speaking. I know other people that the same thing, and I guess I worry that is that another narrative that people that are not maybe they're just running with something that is definitely a legitimate issue in the black community, but it's not only in the black community, is it?
I don't think it's a narrative. I don't feel that when a cop pulls up to him, he had the same mindset that he would have if he put up to my car or my truck. I don't think it's a narrative. I don't think he does.
Okay.
Like, will we ever know that for sure? Would a cop ever admit that? We don't know.
Right.
I just don't. I think, and listen, a lot of it is, and people are gonna probably hate when I say this, especially black people. A lot of it we bring up on ourselves. I think that cops, police officers, they see us as a threat. I really believe that. I really do. No matter how we dress, I'm still black.
Because I've definitely, I mean, I drive around in bow tie and suspenders, and I've still gotten pulled over. You know, I mean, right?
It doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how you upkeep and present yourself, your skin color is always gonna. It's your book. They're always gonna judge this.
Yeah.
No matter how many bleaching creams you put on yourself, no matter how many nose jobs you get. I mean, that's the thing. You still have to mark on each legal document who you are. There's no getting away from that. So,
But do you agree with what I'm saying about a lot of it is?
oh yeah,
A lot of it, and I would be one to admit that.
yeah.
Yeah. But why should I get that treatment? I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why should I get that treatment? So I think when he pulls up to us, he himself is already like on, what this dude gonna do? How is he gonna be? I don't think he feels that way when he pulls a white man over. I don't. Yeah. That's just how I feel.
I understand that and I respect that. I wonder if a lot of that is because of all the videos. Is it because that's all you see is the bad and is that perpetrating that narrative in our head, or not a narrative, is that perpetrating in that cop's mind all the video stuff that's been out there about, I don't know. I'm throwing that out there because I'll tell you what, I know this story and I'm pretty sure this is happening. Can you tell us what happened to you the other day? And just so we understand, we do flooring and countertops here in the greater Houston area. And we have a very high-end neighborhood, actually just around the corner from here. Very well-off, very high-end neighborhood. I don't particularly want to say the name per se, maybe. But Trouble is one of our supervisors, and he runs this whole area up here. And so the other day he had a situation. Why don't you tell us?
Yeah, I'm part of being a supervisor for the company is walking houses and checking to make sure all is well. Kind of remind you of the Ahmaud Arbery situation. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what he was supposed to do. When I heard that, I'm like, wow, that's what I do for every day, all day.
And when saying that, that's exactly what I thought. Him walking into that house, even if he grabbed a hammer, I remember 13, 14 years old walking into big houses. I'm like, man, I can live here one day. So I mean,
Yeah. So basically, I was doing my job, got out of my truck to walk into the house. I walked inside the house. I did what I needed to do, made my notes, and the whole nine. I'm walking out. This lady I actually saw her jogging before I got there, and she looked at me when she was jogging. When I was coming out of the house, she walked up to me and asked me what I was doing there. I said, I'm working, man. I said, oh, well, I'm just asking and trying to figure out because we have people, we have some issues where people just coming over here in the neighborhood and just kind of, and been stealing stuff and taking stuff from the houses. I'm like, why are you telling me this? And then at that very moment, the light bulb went on again, like, Trouble, you know exactly why she stopped you.
yeah.
Okay, you can play crazy all you want, you know exactly why she stopped you. And that's what I'm getting at. Would she have stopped you?
So in 21 years of being in the industry, flooring and everything, in 21 years, I think I've had one or two people check on me. I have walked thousands and thousands of houses and neighborhoods, thousands upon thousands in 21 years. And I think I've had two people maybe question me. It was not a suspicious question, the way that she asked you told me, and just in the tone, it was suspicious.
We got people stealing, taking stuff from over
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And, that, like, my question goes to her, okay, like, why are you thinking that? Like, what is the prelude to that thought of why is it an automatic assumption? That's what I think and believe needs to be cured, if you can say. That's the perception that needs to be adjusted. And how do we get people to see that? Let me say this, and if I'm wrong here, man, guys, y'all love me through this and help me to understand. But I question anybody that looks suspicious to me, black, white, Chicano, Asian, whatever, it don't matter. If they look like I don't know you hear you're not supposed to say thug anymore, but I don't know another word. But if they look that way to me, if they look suspicious, then my guard is automatically up. You know me, Trouble. I hardly pull into any parking spot. I back into every parking spot because I'm watching my view. I'm constantly ready, try to be ready for any kind of thing like that. Like I'm always like that. And if I saw someone like in a manner that looked to me suspicious, I would be on the ready. But the thing is, and I don't mean this. I don't want this to sound offensive, but you don't dress or look like that. You got a really nice, brand new truck almost, and it's you dress very like this, even on the job where you're dirty, sweaty. You don't look like someone that is looking for trouble.
You can't change this.
And that's my point.
You can't change.
That's my point. So I think there's a very valid reason. I would hope that every person not of color that hears this would just ponder that and think about that, because you're absolutely right that is an issue. Now, the only way that I believe that changes is through perception and through the heart. Yeah. I mean, you can't pass a law that you can't be suspicious of black people in the neighborhood. Like, you can't law that out.
Right.
You have to come to a position in your heart where, okay, I'm seeing this and I'm wrong. I mean, man, we do it all the time with our kids or with our marriages as our friends. And
you fix it by teaching. You fix it by action.
Yeah.
You just said, Trouble, the way you dress, that's purpose. That's not coincidence. That's purpose. Because I know what this. I got to combat this.
Yes.
I have to combat this. So I have to dress nice. Or I have to talk. I have to. Because I don't want that. In my mind, I don't want that kind of treatment, and I still get it. So that's what's kind of ironic. I'm like, I'm trying to avoid that treatment, and yet I still get it. You were talking about when you say when you see thugs or what have you. And I was saying to myself, I don't. When I see, as you would call it, thugs, I don't act that way because I've been typecast, so to speak, that way. I'm sure you walk by a car and you heard the door lock. You see how you giggle? Yeah, you go up in my car and you're like, click, you're like,
that's a daily.
Like, wow, like, man, what I do? I'm just walking by.
So I will say that, and this is just because of the way my dad raised, and I grew up in a pretty bad neighborhood, and so I mean, it was bad. It was rough. You always had to be aware, and so most of the time my doors are not even unlocked. But I will say that if whether it's like I said, a white, Asian, Chicano, anybody that walks by, my doors, I make them, I lock them if they're not locked. Usually when I'm sitting in a parking spot, people can think I'm paranoid, and that's okay. They can think that I'm alive. But usually if I'm in my parking spot and I'm sitting there waiting on Raquel in the store, or I just got in the car, I don't do anything else until I put I turn the truck on and I put it in gear and I'm holding the brake. And I'm doing that for a very specific purpose, because if somebody comes up to rob or something, I'm a licensed CHL holder. If I can't pull my gun fast enough or anything like that, then I might just take off. And so I don't. Yeah. But if I'm, for some reason, some unknown reason,
so you hit the lock switch.
Well, I put it in gear and it locks it automatically. But
why?
but
Why?
So,
But why?
because
that could be offensive to someone.
it could.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would rather do that than take a chance of. I saw, and maybe I need to stop videos, right? 'Cause I saw another video the other day where it wasn't a racing. Is a white guy in the car, and he's videoing, and out of his window right here, it's an older white guy, and he's sitting there, and he's got a pistol in this guy's face, this close. I mean, it's a 45. He's sitting there, and he's, I'm gonna blow your effing head off, and I'm gonna kill you. You just wait. And he's going off because the guy was apparently on his private property, but it's a public road in a neighborhood, and they're going back, and the guy. He goes, I'm gonna kill you if you don't. You're gonna wait for the police, and the guy ends up getting scared. Boom, he drives off real quick, and the guy shoots at him. Boom, boom. And I've been around that kind of stuff, and so, I mean, I weigh the odds out, man. If I can make it or not, or fight or flight. Do I need to throw down? Do I need to pull? Do I need to drive? And it doesn't matter to me what their race is.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody walks by, I lock the door. It's a woman that walks by, I lock the door. If it's not locked already. I mean, Raquel and I both grew up on the north side, and man, everybody would rob you. I mean, and that's prejudice right there, saying that, man. The old man walking down the road, he's not gonna rob. But I mean, at one point when we lived on north side, I mean, I was having to mow the front yard with my pistol in my pocket because cars would come down the road and just stop and jump out, ready to go. So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I that's the way I live my life now, and I'm always, having that perception of protecting and coming home to my wife every day.
I agree with
So
that.
I'm only saying that because I know in my own life, for me, that I'm that way. But it has nothing to do with the skin color.
No.
But yeah, if I see right there on Spring, on Louetta the other day, there was a guy just down the street from our shop, white guy, comes out of the store, and a group of 5 black kids come up, or black guys, and they beat the fire out of him right there, and I mean, all you see is the camera. You don't. It doesn't look like he stopped and had a conversation. He had 2 bags, and he's a pretty big guy. And I mean, and he's on the ground. They kick him in the face again, and he's sitting there. And so, I understand that. I grew up having to deal with some of that from my side, and so if I see that situation coming at me, I'm automatically processing. But it doesn't matter to me if they're black or white.
It was more the environment that you grew up in. You adapted to the environment that you were in, and what's happening now is we're seeing a lot of people that have lived in their environment for too long and didn't experience they didn't experience or haven't experienced anyone else's or seen anyone else's environment. And what I mean by that is, you live in this ecosystem from the time you're born until you leave the house.
Yes.
And your parents, they try to keep you in that ecosystem as best they can. Whatever's in there, you're gonna deal with it and whatnot. And I know for me, when I speak for the African American culture, my ecosystem was everything. You had to learn everything, because if not, someone's gonna catch you slipping. Someone's gonna catch you slipping, and either you're gonna end up dead, locked up, or
In a bad way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to, like you said, it's hard to say, okay, well, let's change the laws and hope for the best, because that's not going to fix the issue of what's at home, what's within that ecosystem.
Yes.
I mean, 56 years ago, 57 years ago, I mean, you still have people that are alive that have went through that time. My father was born in 58. He remembers, I mean, the good, bad part of that, even the change, and seeing the change and the change not being there, and wanting more change, and still not being there. You know, yeah, it's yeah.
I understand, man. It's how I think what you said too is educating people.
Yeah.
But how do we educate people that don't want to? Like this lady that walked up to you at the subdivision the other day. Like she doesn't want to be educated right now.
Oh, yeah.
She's scared.
Yeah.
And so I that's why I hope that something like this would help maybe break that ice. If someone watching this could say, okay, you know what? Next time something like that, I'm gonna process my thinking a little different, and maybe not automatically go there. But
And I have friends that would hear that story and say, "Why didn't you put her in her place?"
You can't. I'm sorry. There, the
You know what I'm getting at?
because you know, and I've been in that situation.
Yeah.
I there's been a time where I was in lawn care and I had the sprayer in my hand, you know, lugging the big jug of pesticide, walking to my big green truck, and still people asking me, "What are you doing there?"
Yeah.
Like, or do they know you're there? Or I know that person. I'll give them a call and let them know that you're here. Like,
Yeah.
no, ma'am, it's okay. I've already called them. I called them a day before to let them know I'm already coming. So it's a stigma that has been around for so long, that's been passed on from generation to generation to generation, that it's almost second nature to do. It's not so much as, okay, I see a black person, we need to point him out. It's more of, okay, man, what is he doing? I see that threat. And you know, you're right. Whenever you said you lock the door, you do all these things because that's the environment that you grew up in.
people are gonna think I'm paranoid.
Right?
now,
No. But I mean, I have that same. I do somewhat of those same rituals too, because there have been times where I've been robbed in bad neighborhoods. I've been held up, told to give all my stuff, and I do those things out of the fear of being robbed, not out of the fear of another person's skin color.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the difference, because although you have that fear of someone taking your belongings, another person has the same fear, but for a different reason, because of that skin, because of what he was taught, because what was being educated to him at that time.
Yeah, I understand that. It's man, it's definitely, there's a lot to this.
Oh yeah.
It's like the Matrix or something. You know, how do we read the Matrix? I had some other topics that I wanted to just ask. What is white privilege explained through your eyes? Second one was, what are some ways that Black Americans are discriminated that others might not see or understand? Now, we just talked about that in a if y'all want to go deeper on that. We hear the term systemic racism. What's your view on this terminology? We kind of touched on that. What are some ideas that you feel could bring change? And what are some changes that you personally would like to see happen in our culture? Not the Black culture, not the white culture, in our culture. So,
Yes.
man, anyway, those are some. Any of those jump out at either one of y'all that you wanna tackle, man?
White privilege. That's white privilege.
Go for it.
I do believe there's a degree of white privilege.
Okay.
And I think it's always been there. I think it's going to always be there. And I mean, it's going to sound cliche, but I have a lot of white friends. I have a lot of Black friends in the whole nine. And I do tease them about their white privilege, and you kind of, and because it's fun, but I do believe in it, but I think it's something that even they can't control. That's due to word privilege.
Right.
They don't see it due to word privilege. I had a neighbor ask me. He had just moved into my neighborhood, and I remember I've been there first. He moved into my neighborhood, and he came over to meet me. He introduced himself, and his second question to me was, "What do I do for a living?" And you see your reaction? I told my white counterparts that, and they were confused on why that's an issue. I said, well, you just don't ask that question to a black man what he does for a living. Just kind of, we take it as offensive, you know, because what are you saying? I don't belong here? That's how we take it.
That's exactly.
Yeah, what are you saying? I don't belong here?
Okay, well then, I'm just gonna throw it out here. I'm confused. When you asked that and you started saying most of my white friends would be confused, I'm like, yeah, like what's wrong with that?
Yeah, see?
But I can tell you,
That's-
I mean, from my view, that's a very common question.
I know, but I
Right.
wouldn't dare ask him that. And, you know, and you see how he's reacting when I said it. Like I told all the black friend, they're like, he said what to you?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, he asked me what I do for a living.
Okay, then fill me in and educate me.
Because the automatic assumption when someone says that, they automatically assume, okay, well, what do you do for a living?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that person must be a retired NBA player.
He said dope.
Yeah,
Yep,
right.
Yep.
Is-
Well, you don't, I'm serious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how we take it. Like, why you asking me that question? You know, I don't belong over here with you on the side of you in your neighborhood. Why does it matter?
How'd you make it this far? How'd you get in that house?
Yeah, how you get
That's basically the question.
That's the question.
How did you get in there?
How you getting in the house?
Okay, well, I'm really blown away here. I really am, and
See, see what white privilege.
oh man, get that off. I don't know white privilege on me.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm just blown away with that question being offensive, because that is it is a very common question. I know, without an assumption, like for me,
the second question you asked me though, the second.
yeah. I mean, I meet people. You know, I meet people all the time. You know that.
Yeah.
I have to deal with all kinds of people, and people are my life, right? And that is a very nonchalant. I mean, what do you do for a living?
Wow.
It really is.
And it's
Yeah.
and like I said before, it's the environment that you grew up in.
Yeah.
It was, that question was asked like a norm. And it was more just to see, hey, what you doing? And that's how it is.
Yeah.
But in other atmospheres and other ecosystems, other people say it as, okay, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Wow. I would never come to the conclusion that question leads to that assumption.
Oh, that's a heavy question. That's a loaded question.
So I mean, for me, it's truly one of interest. I know my family. I know I don't think my brother or even my dad, who's 68 or 9 right now. Anyway, I just don't see that. But I hear you. I mean, both of y'all lit it up. So I'm like, okay, man, write that down. Do not ask a black person what they do for a living. So I guess you wouldn't say, how do you get your money either? Right? I mean, like, I'm really blown away here. So I get it, and I want to throw that around in my head, but.
The difference is a person like me, I don't lash out and I don't put people in their place. Sometimes my wife gets on to me because she thinks I should do it more often. I don't, because I'm like, what's the end game?
Exactly.
What's the end game? What am I going to gain by? Hey, man, you shouldn't have me that question, man. You still matter why I'm here. Why? What am I going to solve?
But-
Just tell me what I do and move on.
What if it's an assumption? What if there's a way to ask your neighbor, in a like you never come off very,
Assertive and aggressive.
well, not assertive, because he's pretty strong in your conversation. He'll put the point out. He's just not all and flip the he doesn't I don't know the right word. But why couldn't you say, hey man, yeah, good to meet you, man. I work for a flooring company. Hey, curious, why would you ask me that? I'm just curious. Like, I believe that something like that can help at least bring that conversation up.
Bring it out there, yeah.
Because if what you're saying is true, then my automatic thought is that he's ignorant. He's ignorance is not knowing. Ignorance is not having knowledge. I'm ignorant to this as of 5 minutes ago.
No, but I think Chris Cornelius thinks that he genuinely wants to know what I do for a living. Like, it's nothing, and it's nothing more to that, right? You think he just wants to know what I do for a living, and you may be true.
that's naive
you
on
may
my
be
end.
right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel right hearing that question, especially that fast. You know, we had known each other for a few days. You know, I've been he come by the house, and then he had that question. Maybe I would have took it a little better, but in a matter in the first 5 minutes?
I would have asked you right away, man.
Really?
Yeah.
In the first 5 minutes of meeting me?
I would have asked you, how does your name Trouble?
I'm okay with
And-
that.
You gotta be, man. I mean, come on, it's like it's crazy that your name is literally Trouble. I would ask you, how in the world did you get your name? Really, man, what do you do for, like, it would be a non-invasive, it's just
and-
how do we
It's how you present it. Is two. You said you started off with his name, and it led into the question of how, like, where do you work? Because with a name like that, you either got to be a UFC fighter or something.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It led
I mean,
into it. Yeah.
That's a segue. But whenever you hear, hey, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Like that right there is like, okay,
I
why?
I get it. I get it. And there's some things that are rolling in my head. So if y'all don't know, well, y'all two know, but anybody watching, I am in an interracial relationship. My wife, she is Hispanic. And we've had some issues in the past with, or really she has with other, white people. And there are little things like that I get it. I mean, there's things like that I didn't pick up on until she would bring some of that to light,
It's a cultural thing. I mean, we raised, you don't ask a woman her age. You don't ask a woman if she's pregnant. You don't ask a black man what we do for a living. It's like one of those things. It's just, I can get on the list. It's a cultural thing. I mean, you just. Oh man! I'm telling you, man. It's a whole list. I don't want to get into it right now, but it's a whole list.
Well, you need to give me the list.
So I can help you out. Yeah.
I think everyone needs a list.
It's a
Everyone
whole
needs
list,
to listen.
man.
I need
But
to
laminate it.
But
Yeah. There's something you just don't ask people. You don't ask them. You just don't.
I mean, I'm trying to jump off.
Because there's no way in the world I would have ever asked him that question. I don't. There's nothing that would have made me ask him that question.
Okay.
I would have been lost forever.
Yeah, either
you
that
do?
or I would have done some, recon myself. Like, hey, he's driving a work truck there. He might be. Yeah.
If it doesn't endanger my family, or I thought it was endangering my family, I wouldn't care. Wouldn't have to care in the world what he do.
Or if
for
he
them.
didn't bring it up in a conversation
Yep.
himself, that's.
Man, okay. Well, this is good. See, this is the kind of stuff that need to happen.
But to me, that feeds into the whole quote white privilege. I think it's a mindset, and I don't think it has a negative connotation. White privilege. But I don't think it is. I think, again, I hope I don't offend you. I don't think white people know. Like, I don't think he meant harm by that. I really don't think he meant harm by that. I think a lot of white privilege is just the way their culture, the way they think.
Right.
I don't think there's nothing negative about it. It's just way, like you said, you to this moment, you're like, I thought I was. What's wrong with that question? You don't mean no harm by it. You thought everything is okay. Yeah. I don't think white privilege is negative. I don't think it's okay. I'm gonna go out here and use my white privilege to. I don't think
Right.
so. Yeah.
It's more of you have the privilege to do things that I don't. You have because I know I've been in a car with plenty of friends that were white, plenty of friends that were Hispanic, and they would do things that I wouldn't do if once they got pulled over by a cop. I mean, yelling,
Berating.
yeah, no, and that's one of the things you're taught as a black person, not to basically mind your P's and Q's and dot your I's and T's because everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
You are there from the moment you're born.
I understand that, and to answer his point is, for the longest time when I was hearing white privilege, I did get upset or bothered, or like, man, and here's the reason. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but one of my daughters is really lit up with all this conversation right now. She's on fire. She's doing all kind of research and stuff, and she was making we have a very good communication between us, and we were talking one day, kind of hard conversation, and she began to say about my white privilege and because I was raised this way, and I said, well, what are you talking about? I raised you. What you? And no, I don't think we're perfect, but we got to talking, and she mentioned this stuff, and I said, I said, baby, look. And she referenced us moving out of the neighborhood we were in. When I talk about north side, we were living on the north side of Houston, right by the Tia Pancha flea market, airline and Mitchell. And it's just really bad over there. You know, yeah, it is. I grew up there, but she was talking about that, and I said, baby, hold on. We didn't move out of there because we're white or because I'm white and you're half. We moved out of there because Dad was going to probably go to jail for. I mean, you know, my wife. Look over there. It is a predominantly Mexican culture. It's not Hispanic. It's there. They are, you know, people from Mexico that are living there, and here we go. This is it's a different culture. I grew up around that culture. I know a lot about. I speak fluent Spanish. I'm in that culture. My wife is Hispanic, but man, their outlook in the neighborhood where we were in the community we lived, the outlook on women and young girls. My wife would go to the store with our 3 young daughters who were, you know, coming into their early teens to 10 years old, that kind of window, you know, and they were developing and these men, grown men, would stare at my daughters like a piece of meat. And this was all the time. They couldn't even stop at the stoplight without that going. Now, do I think that's a Mexican thing? No, not at all. That's a sin issue. That's a lust issue. I get that. It's just that in some areas, some cultures, some places, some communities, those things are more prevalent than others. There's
Right.
more. They're more. I don't know. Crass about it, I guess it'd be. You know what I mean? They're more apt to portray that. And that's the area we lived in. So we didn't move out because we had white privilege.
Yeah.
We moved out because
You didn't want to catch a case.
there you go.
I mean,
yeah,
that
exactly, man.
I would feel the same way.
And so does that mean that my kids didn't grow up around, you know, the drinking and the drugs and people fighting in the street and all? Yeah, no, they didn't grow up around that.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep them from that because that's the way that Raquel and I grew up in that kind of stuff, and we didn't want that for our kids. Now, to me, I had to explain it. That's not white privilege to me. That's just smart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know, and so I understand white privilege stuff when it comes to like the issue you talked about, you know, the skin color thing with someone judging or something like that, or being pulled over. I understand that there's something there.
You have a longer leash, I guess is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you have a longer leash, as they say.
Look, I'm not successful as a business owner because of, in my opinion, because of white privilege. I did go to a bank a few years ago to buy our current building that we're in, but that was after 17 years of being in business. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
wasn't. We started out with nothing. I mean, I left an amazing job with good money, and I started scraping floors for $50 a day to learn how to be a chalan, you know, an ayudante, a helper.
Yeah.
And we continued to grow the business, and here we are 21 years later, and we're there, and it's been all this steady process of build and grow for first 15, 16 years. We didn't have anything in the business. And so there's nothing in there that I believe that happened because
And
I was
because
white.
I know you, I would agree with you on that.
Oh, yeah.
I would. I would agree with you on that one. Yes.
But someone else, what if another,
right, yeah.
what if someone that's black that watches this and Google's Cornelius Contracting and, oh, wow, you know what I mean? Would they think, oh, well, he's there because white privilege? Because that's some of the stuff that I've heard, and maybe I'm just assuming, and I'm wrong if I'm assuming, but if that comes up, you know what I mean? That's my issue with white privilege.
Yeah, it does have a negative connotation. Speaking of negative connotation, how do you feel about the connotation of Black Lives Matter?
That's interesting because at first I had that same thought that a lot of people do. Well, man, everybody matters. All lives matter. I know that, I know y'all too. You believe that. You're not over here. Oh, we're only about black folks. You're not. That's not you. I know that. It does. It does make me wonder. Not get upset or mad or anything, but it like, and maybe it's because my heart and my little bit of knowledge that I have of some other stuff. Like, I have a heart for many different people. As a pastor, I like. There's so many other issues in the world that have my attention as well, that I wonder if would I get so pulled on that I forget. Nah, that's a wrong analogy. I probably shouldn't say it that way. It definitely is important to bring the focus. This is the voice that's being spoken right now, so it is important. But I also have to keep the perspective that there are many other lives at stake right now as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. When I first heard it, when I first heard it in 2013, it made me cringe. Believe it or not,
Me too.
It made me cringe, and I'm black.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, whoa. Until I researched, and they're not saying only Black Lives Matter, and I wish they would change it, but they're not going to. Yeah, because I mean, yeah.
Why don't you change
Yeah,
it?
but they would change. But yeah, because my point is, so if I cringe, Jamal, could you imagine how a white person feels hearing it? I mean, so and that's why I asked that question to you. Like, I mean, I don't cringe now because I know what it means, and it's a simple equation. You got a jar of marbles, different colors in this jar, and then you say, and you got outside the jar you got black marbles, and you say all marbles are accounted for in matter. Well, they can't matter until these get into the jar, till the black ones get in the jar. So when people say all lives can't matter unless black lives can't, all lives can't matter until black lives matter also. It's wordy. It's not catchy. So they just say Black Lives Matter, and I can see it could be cringe at its cringe worthy. I get it, but unless you research it and understand the meaning of those words.
I get that.
Yeah, because like you said, whenever you hear Black Lives Matter, people automatically assume, okay, well, so you're saying your life matters more than mine, and that's not the case at all. It's basically saying my life is as equal as yours.
Yeah.
And going back to the whole media thing, whenever it gets to the media, it's pulled completely, two different ways. And that's where the division starts. That's where people, you start pandering to whichever audience you want to pander to. And it gets taken out of context. Yeah.
I think that there's a part of a lot of people, and I don't. I'm not trying to speak for all white people, obviously. I think there's a part that would play into that would say, well, if I go that route and say Black Lives Matter, that nothing else is going to matter. Like I think that's what some people think. I don't know for sure.
Like it's too far left or it's too far right.
I think because they've seen what is this guy made it the other day. He was the one talking about white Jesus. He's a white guy, but he's tried to look like and there's a white lady that did that too. Rachel Dawes and Sean King.
Yeah.
Sean King, that's his name.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
No.
They're both white, but they have really almost kind of, I don't know the right word here, like changed their persona to be black.
Yes, they've
like
taken on a persona.
They've done their hair different. I don't know if they did, opposite Michael Jackson, like you were joking a while ago, but did something to make them darker. But I think that when you see people like that are taking on that, Black Lives Matter, I think that other people see that and think, is that what they're wanting me to do?
Mm-hmm.
They're wanting me to change,
Yeah.
Everything who I am. And because those two people, man, they got lifted up in the spotlight big time, man.
Yes.
And I don't know for sure. I've never heard anyone say, those are some of my thoughts that I think some people that are maybe afraid of that slogan, Black Lives Matter, or maybe maybe don't understand it or are uncomfortable with it, I think that there's a maybe a connotation that this is all that has to matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I don't like that.
I will say this, that I haven't done all my research, and I want to do my research, but I've read a couple of things about the philosophy of the actual organization of Black Lives Matter, their philosophy, and also their money that you give. If you give a donation to Black Lives Matter, when you get the receipt, I don't know, I don't have the facts, so I'll just use a blanket number, but I believe it said that only 12% of what you give actually goes to the organization of Black Lives Matter. There is a pretty and like I said, I haven't done all my research, but what the preliminary stuff that I was reading and saw, there's a pretty big liberal organization that is divided into two entities, and they're the ones that are in control of Black Lives Matter. They have views. The actual Black Lives Matter organization.
Yeah.
If I read this correctly, they don't believe in the family household. They're more of a it takes a village. Let's let the village raise the child rather than a family. Which they're actually, if I read it correctly, and I saw one video that explained something. What they were talking about was how pulling away from having the father in the home per se, and that family structure, which I think is detrimental, and I think is a huge problem as to why we are where we are today. But so I have, with just preliminary reading, not full on research, I have some issues with the organization just from a quick glance, because I think. Man, the family's got to be important.
Yeah,
You can't. I think if you're standing on something, and you want to not have family structure, I think you're setting yourself up for something that's pretty detrimental.
Oh yeah.
That's my thought, but I want to do the research and see. But anyway,
I didn't hear about it.
yeah, you asked
Yes.
about that, so that was my thoughts.
I've heard that, here and there, and I've actually done a little research on it, not much. I did see that only a certain percentage goes towards the Black Lives Matter movement, but my thing is with that, if you want to, show your support and you don't feel comfortable giving money, you don't have to give money.
Yeah, totally.
And you can still show your support for the movement, whether it be, signs of solidarity, showing that you hear. And that's the biggest thing. People need to understand that it's not so much as wanting people to bow down to black people and say, I need you to say sorry to me. It's more of, hey, we want to be included. We want to be equal. And we're tired. And it's been so long since the last, civil uprising that honestly, what's happening today was bound to happen sooner or later. Yeah. There's been a lot of things left unsaid, left undone, things that left overlooked, and just like an infection, you leave it on any part of your body, it's going to start festering, it's going to start building up to a point to where you're going to have to start cutting off limbs. Yeah. So, if you want to support the movement, support the movement. You don't have to, if you don't want to give money to it, figure out ways to support it without having ties to the actual movement itself. Because honestly, I haven't really done much research on, where the profits go, but if it says that on the internet, I'm pretty sure it's being done. If it's being ran by people other than, people who actually want change.
My concern is that organization that's getting all that money, what is their real agenda? That's my honestly
Right.
that's my concern. I think, man, never mind. If I go there, it's all politics. I don't want to.
But that's the thing. Like we don't want agendas. We want change.
Yeah.
Like I don't want I don't want Democratic politicians dressing up like Black Panther characters. Like I want people to actually like I want them to
I know you're
like
talking about.
yeah,
Man,
I want them to pass law like I want them to do real systemic change.
Yes.
That's going to help not only the Black community but help everyone heal over the wounds that were never taken care of.
That's beautiful, man. I agree. I think that one thing that I definitely earlier when we were talking about what brings that change and whether you can't legislate it out and that kind of thing, and it has to be something of perception and from the heart. This is where I think that as a pastor of a church, I think that we have failed in many cases over the years. I mean, for one thing, if you're ignorant, you're ignorant, and that's not a bad thing. When you do something that you know is wrong, that's stupidity.
Right.
But when you don't know, you don't know. That's ignorance. And I think that we're faced with a opportunity, as believers in God and followers after God. There's two things about him: is he is love, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the scripture says. He is love. Period. And so when there's love, that's another scripture says that when we love, it's because of him coming out of us. That's his character traits. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that we were taught and caught from him. And I think that it's time that the church as a whole actively take a step. I'll be honest, man. I don't like it when you're not at church. I don't like it, man. We at one point in our church we had, like right now we have Hispanics, we have whites, we have Jamal. We have is probably you're the only Black person that continually or faithfully attends, but then we have a sister from Dominica Republic.
Yes, please don't get that wrong.
Don't get that wrong.
Don't mix it up,
man. If you say Dominica, pasta.
Or name another island.
Yeah, no.
The region.
She'll tell you pasta. Yeah. You know where I'm from, and she anyway. At one point, a lot of Jamal's other his side of the family, not his wife's side, was attending, and his brother, his girlfriend Kennedy, she's from China. I was learning some Chinese words for a while, man. That was cool, and I love it because that is what community should look like. It should be a mix because we are a mix.
Yes.
And it's a pretty big task when, one of the most segregated times is Sunday morning, when we have Black church and we have this church and that church and, but I think we need to, my goal is to find a way to actively try to break down that wall. And not just from a church standpoint, but I believe we're the answer because we have the mind of Christ. We have the solutions. We just have to step into that and walk in that grace that God's given, for this kind of time. But I don't know, man.
I don't know how to say this, but I was after the George Floyd incident, when I'm watching the news and I'm seeing the protests and I'm seeing what appeared to be just as many white people walking alongside my brothers and sisters, I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was blown. I wasn't expecting to see that. I would, out of all the things that happened, that is probably, how to say, drop my jaw the furthest. Is seeing how much support just from people, because people are understanding wrong is wrong, right is right.
Right.
I mean, even this. I mean, you're a white pastor that wanted to have this. This wasn't my idea. This wasn't Jamal's idea.
No,
This
yeah.
is your idea. I mean, even that is like, wow. So at that point, it's not about color. It's like, hey, I want to make change. I want us all to come together. It's not about. And I told my wife this. I would have been just as upset, probably even more, because I'm more sensitive about others. I've been just as upset if there was a black cop on a white man's neck.
Oh yeah.
I've been just as mad. I would have wanted all the same protests and the whole nine. I'm serious, because I don't. That whole situation was wrong to me.
Yeah.
And I like that what you're doing here. I like seeing the unity of all races on the streets through the nations protesting the wrongdoing and the police brutality. To me, that movement in and of itself is what got me. I mean, just blown away.
Yeah.
I do think, and this is just my perspective as a white man in America, I do think that there has been change. Mm-hmm. You made a comment earlier. You said that things had gotten better, and if we go all the way back, then I mean, obviously, yes, it has gotten better. And so, I think when I look out and I saw the same thing, I was like, man, this is definitely different. I mean, I remember when Rodney King happened, man, it was bad. It was rough. But the other side of that, there is another side. White people were terrified to stop at a red light, and black people were around. I mean, we saw Reginald Denning get pulled out of that truck. But you know the things they didn't show you? Well, there was a little bit of it. I remember this, a black man, he was out jogging when all that happened, and he was pretty built, and he's walking, and he's got this man by the shoulder, or under the armpit, I think, and he's carrying him out, and he's carrying that guy's bike or I don't remember now. He's exact the details, but he was carrying this guy out, and it was a white guy bleeding and everything. The guy had been attacked by a mob of rioters during Rodney King stuff. He'd gotten attacked over here, and this was a black man getting him out of there and getting him to safety. Yeah. We saw some of that at these current riots. Yeah. We saw like groups of black men standing at one. I remember one where one police officer got separated from his unit. And man, they formed a wall. They locked arms around there in front of him, and they're like, "No, we got you, man." And so I think it's fair to say that there has been change. Yeah. Do we need more? Absolutely. Do we need to figure that out? Without a doubt. Yeah. And what that is, that's why I wanted to do this and feel like, what can we come up with and just start a conversation, man. Because it is messed up. You should be able to do your job in a neighborhood and not have somebody question just because of your skin color. Now, granted, there's some people that are going to see this and they're going to say, well, you don't know for sure. You don't know her heart and all that. And, you're right. I don't know her heart. You have the feeling. Yeah. I believe God gives us insight into our feelings. And you have discernment and things. So I don't doubt you one bit. And that, I think, needs to serve as a learning. Like, how can we learn from that? How can some person watching this, if they would just, if somebody is watching this and they think that way. You and I were having a conversation at work the other day, and somebody's like, "Oh, man, I don't believe that. I don't." Yeah. You remember that? Yes. And like, I want that person to see this and to be able to say, "Okay, let me take a break. Let me pause my thinking here. Let me ask the question, or just at least be open to the possibility of needing change in our own heart." Yeah. If that would happen, black or white or whoever, we would see that systemic change. Mm-hmm. That's what I hope that somebody gets out of this. I really want to do a whole lot more of these. Like I said, I have a lot. I want to get other perspectives. I have a couple of other friends that there are actually a couple of ladies that I want to bring on and have this same kind of conversation. And there's other people we could talk to that would not have the same views that you guys have, right? Because we're different, and all of it, we can find a solution. But I do believe that solution, man, I don't think it's something that's going to come by force or by law. I think it's gotta come from right there. And that change when, like right here, when the three of us change, right? Like I'm never gonna ask a black man again, what do you do for a living, my friend? I'm never gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'll wait. Anyway, see, I learned something tonight. Like look, I know you're telling the truth, and here's why. If somebody's watching this and they think that's nothing, the catch for me was that both of y'all responded at the exact same moment. I was looking at you, but I heard him. And I'm sure that when we watch this, that we'll see Jamal's reaction. And it was mutual at the same time. You guys don't even know each other.
Yeah.
You're what, 29?
30.
30, yeah. So 13 years difference, but you're both black. And it was an instant thing like that, right? So that tells me that there's some very real legitimacy here. And so, man, please, to someone that's watching this, if you think that it's not real, ask the question. Just that's what I did. I mean, I'm here faced with it, right? It's 2-1. I can't say. I had to sit here and say, okay, Chris, you better look at this. And I really what I did when I heard him, I was like, oh snap.
Like, oh, it's real.
And
Oh, it's real.
I really did.
Yeah.
I'm a believer, and I did. I asked I said, Holy Spirit, let me see this, please. I need to see this. And I still don't fully get it.
And that's okay. And that's the thing about this whole thing is you don't have to completely understand the whole thing. But as long as you take the time out and educate yourself on what's really going on, that's how we're able to move forward.
Yeah.
We have to stop. And I mean, even for me, I had to sit down and educate myself on what's really going on, because like I said before, we've been blinded by so many other things that honestly, racism was there, but it was pretty much on the back. It was on the side burner, simmering. And because of, honestly, because of our president today and the way he's handled racism, it has moved that pot over to a straight boil. Yeah. And we're getting to the last part where it's about to start burning the pot. Yeah. And if we don't have these uncomfortable conversations, the pot's it's gonna start burning up.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I hear you, man. Well, it feels like a good place to end here, but unless I would love to give y'all an opportunity just to say any last thing that you could possibly think of that would help, or anything at all that you would want to throw out.
Well, I do. This whole talk you kept mentioning change. I believe part of the change could come from training of these officers, rules of engagement.
I agree.
What other I guess fraternity has guns on their side? The military. We don't. The military. I think they have better training. I think if that same type of training or even similar training was given to our police officers, more specifically rules of engagement and how to de-escalate situations, I think that would help some. I really do. I don't think a lot of effort is given into that, if you will. And so my little tidbit of change would be changing the rules, changing the training for police officers, not defunding them. I don't believe in that. I understand it, but I don't understand why you want to defund someone that can't.
I don't want to.
Because there are good cops out there, and they protect and serve. They do.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is, you mentioned earlier, it's a human element there too. It's human nature. So I think that comes from the lack of training. So the lack of training caused them that human element to grow. And when you have a human side of it, then we get some of the reaction that we see on the news. I think some of the rules of engagement need to be changed with our law enforcement.
And I believe, when they say defunding the police, my assumption is not so much as taking the money away from, police departments, but using it more, taking some of that money away and using it more for community service engagement ideas. The city of New York City, they have
$6 billion budget for police.
and housing communities, schools, they don't have.
I read that today. They want to take $1 billion and turn it to something else. Yeah.
Right, and like just things like that. And we don't have adequate training in America as far as police force as compared to other countries. Other countries, they have psychology classes that they have to take. They have to do de-escalation training before they even step out and hold the gun on their side. So, and with that happening, it has led to changes in the whole system when it comes to excessive force or police brutality, because it's not the situation or the conflict, it doesn't get to that point. They're able to de-escalate it. But if you have two people, you have someone that's angry and you have a police officer that has little training, no training, but just came out of the military doing 2-3 tours, you don't know, the mindset of the person because of what's psychological tests that they take at that time. They don't really understand what that person's gone through, his thought process or anything like that when it comes to situations as far as de-escalating. So that person that wore that military uniform, that is behind the badge, it's difficult for him to de-escalate a situation that he was never taught.
I get that. Yeah. I think I said billion. I don't remember if I read 6 billion or 6 million.
Oh no, it was billion.
It was billion?
Yeah.
That's amazing to think of that. But I understand that. I know that, like I said, I come from a family of a lot of police officers. I haven't been around. I've got people that are still in that now, but when my dad was an actual officer, I don't remember them having to do additional training here and there. He would do different things, but I don't know. But that's definitely something to at least raise a flag about. And
I think it would help. I think it would help.
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
I'm going to school now for healthcare, and in the field of healthcare, I have to learn psychology. I have to learn the human body before I even touch it. So if those same requirements are held to that standard of a healthcare professional, we have to hold people that are supposed to protect and serve, and
I hear what you're saying. You gotta learn the trade, learn the.
Yeah, and I think the first chapter should be, if a man is handcuffed, you don't put your knee on his neck. I'm kind of being petty, but I'm just.
No.
I think if there was training, I don't think Mr. Chauvin, the officer, would have done it. I don't think so. Or his other officer would have said, "Hey man, what you doing? Watch out."
Right.
Hey,
even if
whoa.
he did
Yeah.
have that unrational thinking.
That he did, but the cops know because of the training. Hey
Right.
man, get your knee off his neck. He's down. He's handcuffed. He's good.
That's a question that I really wish we could have an answer for. Is why did the other guys not step in to stop or say something? At the end of the day, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but when I saw that video, I look at things from a natural perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective, and I really felt. I really don't think that he did that specific act to him because he was black. I felt like that guy just had a murderous heart, and no care, no concern at that moment. That's just what I felt when I saw. I felt like, man, this guy There's some evil there, is what I felt. And then why didn't the other three do anything? You know, that's a good question that we need. I feel like we, as a society, we need an answer for that.
I respect when you say you don't think he did it because he's black. And I know why you said that. And you said he just had a murderous heart. He was just being evil. I do believe that it was that murderous heart you're talking about was magnified by him being a black man.
Because he was black.
I do think it was magnified.
Because you can take the same, not the same thing, but let's say Elijah McClain. Elijah McClain was I forgot how old he was, but he was a teenager and he was introvert and everything else. And he literally told the officers, I'm an introvert. Like, he was telling them everything that's wrong with him. And they still gave him ketamine, and he wound up having a heart attack and dying. So, yes, you can have, I mean, that person did have, I believe he did have a murderous heart, but I also believe that it was stemmed from the color of his skin as well.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I can understand that. That whole issue with the what's his name, Elijah McClain, like that to me gets into full on. I mean, I don't think if you're I mean, this kid was walking down the road. He was walking down the road. That's it, right? This isn't like, even if you look at Trayvon, we don't know that was a fight that went on. We don't like that is a questionable thing maybe, but this kid was just walking down the road. And I don't believe for a moment that anyone in the government has the right to stick you with anything or put anything. If you don't, I mean, if you're robbing a bank or you're holding someone hostage, then they're going to do what they got to do. But this kid was walking down the road, man, and I am full on against. Honestly, I don't want the government in my life. You know, they have their job of protecting the nation and all that, and I get that. And I'm not trying to get political. It's just I just think that as a citizen, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. To me, the government shouldn't be allowed to do anything like that at any level.
Right.
National, state, whatever. They should never have been allowed to stick that kid. They didn't give him one dose of ketamine. They gave him 2. And this kid, he went to the store and he died for absolutely no. There is no reason that this kid should have died. And then, you know, the officers actually got off. They got fired and got rehired so they could get their 30-year pension.
Yeah.
And I think there should be some answer for that, but I think it should be absolutely that the government. I mean, if I don't want to get off track, but if I don't want to vaccinate my kids or vaccinate me, then that's my right. If you're being unresponsive to an authority in the police or something, they shouldn't have the right, you know, to give you ketamine or dope you up. It's just, anyway, that
Ketamine's a sedative, and you know, I learned this, and when I was trying to go into EMT school, when you're dealing with someone, especially that has a mental disability, you have to within any situation, you have to take a step back and analyze it before you even approach it.
Totally.
You have to know what you're approaching before you go into it, because if not, then things like that can happen. They probably didn't. I mean, not that they probably didn't know, or they probably didn't know that he had these things until he told them. But even then, if a person's telling you these things, why continue to escalate the situation by holding him down? And there was no call like saying, "Hey, I see a suspicious person walking down the street."
Yeah.
They even said like, there was nothing wrong. Like he just has a mask on. So I do think that goes back to what your last comment was about training. Like we don't know, you know, that other detail of that situation, exactly why. We know what he's saying, but we don't know what the officer actually thought rolling up on that. I do think, if you get to a point with a suspect
if you're a police officer and you get to a point, why would he believe anybody? Like, they get told everything in the book, and I know this for a fact. I mean, we all know it, man. Oh, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I'm so sorry. Well, you got the bloody knife in your hand. You know what I mean? And everybody's innocent, right? And I say that facetiously, but that situation, man, there has to be something that says, even just the fact of talking to the guy, pulling him over, or not, he's walking, getting out and addressing him, like, there's got to be a better way. And I don't know, man. Some of my officer family may get a little upset at me with that. I don't know. I don't think so. But that was tragic. Just like there was no cause for that. And so anyway, I'm sorry. I understand what you're saying. I can see where if that man, Chauvin, had that, if he had this racist mentality or a bigoted mentality
Already embedded.
already there, that would have enhanced. I can see where that would enhance. I get that. I understand that. And honestly, we'll never know.
Yeah.
We're never going to know the truth.
Right.
You know, he's going to stand before the Lord just like all of us, and we'll never know that for sure. But I hear you, man. I do. Definitely something to take away from this. Yeah. You got anything last minute, last hoorah?
No, that's it for now. I mean, there's too many topics to touch on, but we have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing.
And I thank you for this, man.
Man, I am very, very thankful for both of y'all. Y'all mean the world to me. As many people, I got a lot of people that are close to me that I love dearly, and I respect you guys very much. I hate that that you guys have had to face this your whole life, and I really hate that because you're my friends. I really want to see a change in the community around us and see the world change. I mean, you guys are my friends, and I love you both to death. I really do. If somebody, I would jump in the middle of anything that anybody was. If I'd have been there that day, what's this thing going around right now? Karen, I'd have called Karen out, and I'd have told her off. You know, I would have done it.
Karen, huh? Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys so much, and thank you for
You are welcome.
taking the time here, because I know that not everybody's going to agree with this. We have a real enemy that really wants to continue to sow discord and tear us down, and changing the world is not easy. So I love you guys very much, and I thank you so much for giving your heart and your time, and we'll do it again.
All right.
Yeah,
You are welcome, sir.
man.